What I'm going to do is, and thank you again, Morag, is I'm going to start up my presentation again. We're going to talk a little about this new concept of inside out thinking. And
Mm,
from this is a component of my larger 8-week program of the Hero's Journey Success Formula. But I spend some time with people understanding this concept right after we take the hero's journey, because I want people to understand how powerful their thoughts are. Because now that we've taken our hero's journey,
mm,
we then, again, like I said, the whole point of this is to figure out how can we reach our goals, how can we find our purpose and live you know an amazing life that we still want to go reach out and do. And so I find a lot of people, that are stuck or have been stuck, have kind of a rigid mindset. So this is going to help open up, hopefully, a little bit of the mindset. So I call it inside out thinking. Actually, I didn't call it that. It's been called that for quite a while. So I'll just refresh and start with the story that, if you're with me all week, I talked about where I was in the shower, and I had this epiphany that this isn't the way to live life, that something wasn't right. I was blaming the outside world, and I needed to stop and look inside. So if you're with me this week, you're learning these new things about yourself. And as Morag just pointed out, this is the calling and learning on this journey. So for me, I found Joseph Campbell in the hero's journey, and it really changed my life. It allowed me to write my book, Be the Hero of Your Life, and to start coaching and helping people that I really wanted to work with people like myself who were kind of stuck in this place and needed a new perspective. So during this time of writing the book, I formulated this 5-step process. And so we're gonna talk a little bit about this, the Hero's Journey Success Formula, and just want to quickly point out that it has these 5 steps. So if you're with me this week, we've taken step 1, take your hero's journey, to give us this understanding of who we really are at a profound level. The next part is that we would work on the transformational ladder. So now that we understand our life sort of in this hero's journey viewpoint, we're going to dig a little deeper and find what are some of the limiting beliefs that we've created, that we've carried with us, that have been getting in our way. And everybody has these. And so we just spend a little bit of time looking at that. Again, it's not therapy. We're not going to go in there and spend a lot of years dissecting it. We're just going to uncover some of these limiting beliefs that we've carried forward in our adult life. And then we climb back up the ladder, because we're going to go through a series of questions that are trying to answer that question of what are those limiting beliefs. Once we found them, then we climb back up and we just turn them around and realize that they're false beliefs, and we create new, powerful, positive beliefs to carry with us forward. And then we go over this inside out thinking that we're going to cover here in a moment. In step 3, step 4, then it's all about quantum creation and about how we can use the ideas in quantum physics. And Morag, you'll love this, because I'm with your science background
mm,
and your spirituality connection. This is the intersection where I really love, is where we can have spirituality and science connect. I find that really interesting.
mm,
And so in this section, I found these really interesting connections between quantum physics and quantum theory and in spirituality, and in simplicity of, there's infinite possibilities. And if there are infinite possibilities, which quantum physics shows us, then we can reprogram our neural networks and our brains through meditation and visualization, and create the new us that we need to be to become what we want to do and to achieve the events that we want to achieve. And so stage 5, or step 5, is what I call medviz, and it's simply meditation to get us into the alpha state, and then deep visualization to create the new you that will get us to what we want to be. And so that's just real briefly what the stages are. And so I want to talk a little bit more at the end, if you guys will indulge me. But right now, I want to talk about inside out thinking, and let's move into this. Um, so we'll see that heroes they're really made, not born. And so if you've gone through your hero's journey and you said, I don't feel like a hero, or even before this, you didn't think you feel like you were a hero. It's not about really being a hero. Again, it's about feeling empowered. And as you go through your journey, you're going to pick up and learn the skills and the allies and the confidence to become your own hero, whatever that may be, to find the treasure of the success, whatever that may be in your life. So it really is this human experience that we have, and the inside out thinking basically is answering the question: is what is the human experience? Is it feeling? Is it touch? Is it taste? Is it taste? Or excuse, yeah, these senses of that. And so what I'm going to propose is that these concepts of inside out thinking principles have the mind, the thought, and consciousness that really encompass our whole experience in life. And so this started off by a guy named Richard Carlson, who wrote a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. He actually started, coming up with this concept of this. Another guy, Sydney Banks, also, who was interestingly was he was a welder, or he was a journeyman, and he kind of had this spiritual experience, and he came out and started talking about this and creating this concept. It's also been called psychology of the mind, or health realization, or the three principles of mind, consciousness, and thought. So what they're talking about is, let's break these three things down: the mind, thought, and consciousness. So the mind is basically the energy that runs through all of this. And in this case, it is the brain, but the mind is also energy. And so it allows our hearts to beat, our blood to flow, our mental activity that powers our brains. And as long as you're living, the mind is the engine that really allows us to create the next heartbeat and to have the next breath and the next thought. And it literally turns on our experience of life. And we're going to keep diving into this whole thought of we have the power inside of us. So thought. We create our individual experiences of reality via the vehicle of thought. So thought really is the missing link between the formless world of pure potentiality and the created world in the form of the world. So without thought, you really can't have any experiences. Without thought, you can't have self or notion of self. And because we create all of our understanding of ourselves and the world around us through our thoughts. Now, this may seem trivial. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. But stay with me, because this is going to start to make more sense as we unfold this. So in a cool author that I really love, Michael Neal, he talks about this inside out revolution. And he points out that without thought, there really would be no distinction between what is real and what is not. It's all happening in thought. So thought is both the creator and the substance of our beliefs. And it's really the raw material of our ideas and our dreams. And we tend to be unaware of how much life is actually created and maintained by thought. And really what happens, most of what happens out, what appears to be really solid and actual, is just the illusions of our thought. Now, illusion being a good thing, not a bad thing. But it is the creation, the illusions of our thoughts. So consciousness. So consciousness is what brings our thought and our thinkings to life. And it makes us aware of what we're thinking. So thoughts are happening in the mind, but consciousness is what brings it all together and allows us to be who we are and to realize what we're thinking and what's going on. So it allows us to understand and to see what's happening. And really, it's like this amazing special effects. It's like the best special effects department in the world, because this is what takes all this thought and creates it into our imagination, and it's what we feel and observe. And it's like this super high sound, high definition. This is what when we see fireworks displays and we see stuff, it's really being created in our mind. And you literally could be looking at these fireworks and have created or seeing in your mind, maybe a war or something completely different than what's actually happening. We know that can happen, but that's the power of the mind, is it creates all of this sensory output, and it creates. So in order to feel anything, we have to have this consciousness that creates this experience for us. And so whatever we think, consciousness will actually bring that to life. The capacity for us to be aware and to experience life is innate in our human nature, in our human beings, and it's a universal phenomenon. All human beings have this. So this was really powerful when I understood this, is that the human mind can be viewed as an old-fashioned film projector. And in thought, we create a picture of our life and we project it out into the screen of our experience, because we're thinking these things and then we move about in our world, but we're still just really creating these experiences in our mind. And we literally are living in a movie of our own making. We're making this movie all the time. And the mind is the power source. Thought is the film, and consciousness is the light source that projects it. So really 100% of our experiences are coming from inside to outside. Now, this concept really clears up a lot of misconceptions and frustrations that people have when they feel like the world is happening to them. The world is caving in on me. And we can see that that's really not the case. And when we grasp this concept, you essentially stop feeling at the mercy of things outside of yourself. You realize that all these things that appear to be happening to you, you're creating the feeling, the visions, and the thoughts and the emotions of them. They may be happening out here, but you're creating the experience that you feel. And of course, if you create it, it means you can change it. That's the power, of course, of this whole concept. So while most of us understand that thought's basically what we think about, we tend to be unaware of really how much of life we're creating by our own thoughts. So again, what appears to be solid and real is just the illusion of our thinking. So if you look at an iceberg, it appears solid, but it's actually made up of water. And just this very small degree of fluctuation in temperature can destroy the iceberg. It may have been around for hundreds of millions of years, and slight degrees, which we're seeing now, unfortunately, in our environment, takes this absolutely solid thing and destroys it, creates water, of course. So in our inner world, it's the same thing. No matter how solid our reality seems, it's only the very slight shift in consciousness that can change our entire world. And so the context, the phrase, "this too shall pass," it takes on a whole new meaning when you apply this inside out thinking to it. If you give the mind the opportunity, it will self-correct. It will gravitate towards a clear state of mind, and an innate intelligence will really come forth. It's the essence of let the body heal. But we are in our way. We need to learn to get out of our own way so that we can create the world that we want to create. So thoughts, they can be seen as media through the way we experience life. Thoughts are actually energy that takes place in our head. So whatever you are inside is really whatever form of thoughts that you have. And it's what you experience by the thoughts that you've created. It may be happy or sad or stressed or fearful, but it could be anything that our minds are thinking of. It could be what we want for dinner tonight. But the simple truth is that our experience of life is created from the inside out via these principles of mind, consciousness, and thought. And we're living in the feeling of our thinking, not the feeling of the world. Got that? We're not living in the world, we're living in our feelings. So with this understanding of the inside out thinking, we're able to create really true transformation. and move into this comfortable feeling of trusting our innate wisdom. And so the hero's journey lays out this perfect formula for creating these transformative shifts in our life. So we're living in our normal day-to-day existence when something happens, the call to adventure, and it changes our point of view. Now, nothing on the outside may have happened, and quite often in our hero's journeys, what we appear to think is a huge event, maybe nothing happened out there. Typically when we're having this calling, this knowing, right? Nothing physically has changed out here on the outside world. It's all going on in here, inside. Now, there then are times when things do happen, catastrophic events happen in our life that are on the outside. But as we've just seen, we have the power how to relate to that, how to think about it, how to form the visual and the emotions that come out of it. We are not locked into the senses that are feeding us this information. We have a buffer. We have thought and consciousness that can then mold and create it. We have the power, and that's what this whole concept means. So we go from inaction to action. We can go from stuck to flowing. We can go from miserable to happy. We can stop doing the numbing behaviors like drinking and shopping and smoking. And before long, when we really adopt this focus and we practice this, our career will take off. Our relationships will improve. And these transformations it's not the result of some intervention on the outside. It's just the shift of consciousness that we can do on the inside. And we could really become the heroes of our own lives, not by anyone on the outside, but by us on the inside. Now, I've had people say, well, we need people in our lives. We need mentors. We need, allies and so on. We absolutely do. But bottom line is, it always comes to how we interpret those, the people, what they say, how they react to us, how they interact with us. We choose to either accept it, to embrace it, to understand how we act with the world and how we act with other people, or not. And so, yes, we definitely need people in our life. Those people are on the outside. So here's an exercise that will really put this in perspective, I hope. So I want you guys to close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes and just take a deep breath. And I want you to remember a time in your life when you were in love. Maybe the first time when you were just falling in love. I know we all know that feeling. The world just suddenly seems beautiful. It just seems everything is right. We're inspired sometimes to write poetry or draw pictures or create things. And it reflects this beautiful feeling that we're feeling inside. Now just sit there for a minute and just feel that feeling you remember of feeling that wonderful feeling. Now I want you to view your life as this projector again of thoughts, minds, feelings, and consciousness. And think about that person that you're in love with. And I want you now to think that this person that you're in love with, maybe they did something to disappoint you or make you mad in some way. Now, again, using this picture, now just what are your feelings now? So the same person standing there, they may have said some different things, but your feelings are different. They may have created this, but instantly you could go back and you could wipe that picture out of your mind about feeling disappointed, take a breath, and then just go back to that, have the memories and the feeling then of the good stuff. So no matter what they say or do on the outside, we can go back and forth on how we perceive that. And see, here's the kicker. When we fall in love with somebody and we have all that feelings and emotions and we feel good about ourselves, we feel like, man, they really like us, and we feel good about ourselves and we're in good space. But here's the kicker. If we break up with them, then a lot of times we feel bad, we feel sad, and we don't feel even good about ourselves. And the reason is because we created those feelings based on someone on the outside. And that's real mastery. When you start to really master this concept of inside out thinking, is when you realize that you're in love with somebody, You have the good feelings, and that's all good, and we should have that. But realize is that you're creating those feelings yourself, no matter what they do. You're creating those feelings, and you're feeling good about yourself, and that's good. And no matter really what they do, you can dictate on how you're going to feel. And so when we break up or we have situations that person on the outside isn't making us feel good anymore, or we think that, we still have the choice inside to feel good, not feel good, to love ourselves, not love ourselves. They can't make us, do that. And what happens is that because we never think about that and we put it all on that outside person, that, I feel good because they love me, then if that disappears, then our good feeling of love disappears. And that is tragic. And we've all been through it. I've certainly been through it. And that's what understanding this concept will do, is that we know that, yeah, I can still have those good feelings no matter who's on that outside out there. All right. So let's skip through a couple of these. So now that we've experienced this new insight, we have a decision to make, that we can continue to try to control life and attempt to think and behave or change our world in this quest of happiness and well-being. And this is where a lot of us fail. We find many companions on this road of questing to looking for on the outside to make us feel good. Or we can take the path of transformation. We can give up our attachment to the comforting feelings and being in control of stuff that on the outside we really don't, but we think we do, but we don't. And if we give up that illusionary safety of the known in search of the unknown and embrace it, then the field of all possibilities is where really all the miracles can happen. And when we step into this realm of insight and we are in the unknown, we can appreciate the mystery of just being alive. And we don't control the timing and the perceptions. And we can see how life in this new, clear, rewarding way. And really that, my friends, is the essence of inside out thinking. When I learned this concept and I really leaned into it, it changed my life. And I think that if you can adopt this concept, even a little bit now, but continue to learn more about it and to bring it into your life, you can have profound changes to your life. Okay. So before we move on here, any questions about that? Did that make sense? Is there any comments anybody would like to make on that? Morag, did some of that make sense? I bet that's some of that you've already learned in your spiritual, journey.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned before, I actually have it on the vision board. It's a favorite statement: make change your friend. And the other one I've got on there is tap into the awesome power of a cause. Everybody needs something, a cause.
A cause. Did you say?
I think this last year, most of the last year, Scotland's been in various stages of lockdown. And the thing I have missed most of all is having a cause other than just simply existing.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And it's so pent up in us now because we do need connection to others. There's no question about that. I think for me, it's given me this appreciation of not to when I can get out there and start seeing people again and hugging people and going on dates and I am going to appreciate so much. I'm not going to let the little things. I'm not going to sweat the little things that they may or do or don't, based on some of the concepts that I've talked about here today. Knowing that they've got their life, they're going to do their thing. I've got my life. Don't let the little things that people do bother me so much to change, make me feel uneasy, because I want to connect with people so badly. I'm not going to let the little things upset me and to throw me off track which I used to do a lot of.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I think that, so that's a really good point. So that's exciting.
Mm.
So let me take a couple of minutes just to round out a little bit. I've talked about the hero's journey success formula. I've talked about the 5 stages. Let me talk a little bit about, if you guys will let's look at a little bit about each stage. So in stage 1, we've worked together, Morag and Adian and I, and if you've been listening to the replays and working through this, you've taken your hero's journey step. And we looked at the 3 different phases, and we put our life into these 12 stages. And so this is the first part of the hero's journey success formula. Now, of course, if you choose to go on and work with me, in the program, the 8-week program, you will have this really good head start that you've looked at this, because we basically go, this is the first part of it. We go deeper. I do go deeper into Carl Jung's theory of developmental. It's really interesting when you start to compare these stages of the hero's journey with the ego, the soul, and the self, as Carl Jung outlines it. So if you're at all kind of geeky about some of that psychological stuff, then we go a little, much deeper into that. It's also really good to then take a second swipe now at your hero's journey and look at some of these components and either get some more ahas or maybe switch some things around. Again, it's not about necessarily making sure it's in that stage, it's understanding the flow. And so the next step then is we do this thing called the Transformational Ladder. And this is really my proprietary system that I created that actually has us try to figure out what are those limiting beliefs that are in our subconscious and bring them forth into our conscious so we can deal with them. Because as long as they're in our subconscious, we don't know they're happening. And what happens is, as an adult, we're in these situations, we get triggered by something on the outside of us, and it takes us back to that child where we created those events, and we behave that way. And it usually sabotages, it's usually not a good situation as adults in the adult situation. So we've got to realize that what those are, and it takes the energy out of them, takes the power out of them, so that when we are living our lives as adults in our life, and those things are going to come up, it's just normal life, right? And we may even get triggered back to that because it's ingrained into us. But now we're aware, we're like, oh, okay, I got triggered back to this thing. Well, that's not a real belief. It doesn't really make sense. So we identify what those are. Then we climb back up and we go through these different life events. We create new beliefs, new emotions, new stories, new behaviors, which through then the meditation that we go over really creates the new you. Is it able you to live and to do and to be what you want to be in the future, that beautiful life that you want to create. So it's interesting, Marag. So I'm thinking of you as I'm thinking through these, and I'm like, okay, this is this wonderful new opportunity potentially, to create this business that now has a spiritual connection, to you in your life. But there may be some doubts in there, and can I really do this? And this is why when I work with different clients, this is a fairly common situation that they want to start a new business or start a new something in their life, but they don't know if they can do it. And they're doubtful. And there's all these fears that creep up. So what we do is we identify what those beliefs might be, whatever it is. And then we start to dissipate them and realize they're not true. And then we focus on the powerful beliefs that will get you to have success in whatever that is. So we look out in the future and we say, what is the goal we want to achieve? Now we're going to take this limiting belief that used to get in our way, and we're going to almost like prepare for it. Prepare that, this could get in our way if we don't, delete that basically, and replace it with a powerful belief that we're going to then every day meditate on and visualize so that it will clear the path for that to happen. Step 3 is the inside out thinking. So we go through this and we'll do it at a different level. We'll go even deeper and we'll look at more examples. And by the way, this is a good opportunity to talk about the cool thing I like about doing these in group programs remotely over Zoom is we'll go into breakout rooms. And so if you've been with me on the 5-day opportunity, was mostly over Facebook. This is the first time we're having a chance to interact. In the 8-week program, it's all over Zoom. We're always going to be able to interact and ask questions and comments. But what's cool is we'll break up into breakout rooms. So we'll go through, we'll ask questions. We'll give you time to think about it and write some things down. Then you will break out with one or two other people and just discuss it. And just by discussing that, it allows it to really sink in and you really start to understand it. It's one thing to write it out. It's a whole nother thing when you communicate it to somebody else. That's when it really starts to make sense. And then we'll come back into the main group, and whoever wants to share with the main group will share. So there's a lot of this interactive learning that Zoom is really good at it. It's amazing how well it is, because it gives us this opportunity to get really connected to one or two people. And I just find, I'm not sure why, but I just find that it's very effective, that it's almost better that, like when I'm at a conference and we do this, there's just so many distractions. And I don't know, it's just something, sometimes I'm not as vulnerable, but I find in these Zoom rooms, when we break out and do this, I'm extremely vulnerable. It's just easy to open up. I'm here in my house, in my environment, and I'm looking at that other person straight in the face on my screen. And that communication just flows really well. All right, so step 4 is where we really get into this quantum creation stuff. We start to look at the science behind some of this spiritual transformation now. And so we'll talk a little about quantum physics. I mean, I'm not a scientist really, I just like science and spirituality. So we'll talk a little bit about quantum physics. We'll talk about the endless possibilities that arise from what quantum physics teaches us about endless possibilities. We'll talk about how the universe works and how frequencies work, and how coherent frequencies that we create in our body are more powerful. And that if we're using our visualization techniques through emotion to create powerful frequencies, that we will then, call in the universe and the creator and everything about us in the energetic field to bring in our true, what our goals and what the life we want to create. We'll talk about genetics. We'll talk about how our now brain waves, our frequency, our emotions can literally turn on and off genes. We used to think that once the genes you got, you were set. Not much you could do about it. We know so much more now. And Marag, I'm sure you know a lot about this, that we have a lot of control over our genetics. And it isn't so that we're changing the genes as much as we're turning them on or off, how they express. So I find that completely fascinating, and the fact that by our emotions we can turn these genes on and off. And of course, we'll learn about neuroplasticity and how we're really going to have to unwire some of these old limiting beliefs as neural networks and then recreate new neural networks. And we know that that's certainly possible with all the science of neuroplasticity. So this step 4 is all the yummy science that's involved in this, and spirituality connected, and the possibilities now are endless if we just put our mind and our focus on it. And then step 5, I'll teach you this fairly simple but pretty unique technique where I'll just calm you down in a guided meditation to get us into that alpha state, so we can now really receive the visualizations that we're going to do, so they become extremely real. And then I teach you this really detailed visualization process to visualize that future. And through the transformational ladder, where we've now created these new powerful beliefs, we'll take those beliefs and then we'll visualize them actually happening. And the emotions and the chemicals that we're creating in our bodies at that time are really anchoring in, creating these new neural networks and anchoring in these chemicals into our body, the good feeling, high frequency chemicals that are secreted that really do put us on the path to being successful. And that's pretty much it. So real quick here, what's also included in that is, so you'll have a membership site, so all the videos, audios, downloads, all the exercises in there. We'll have weekly live Zoom calls. We'll learn the powerful visualization techniques to create the new you. Everybody will get a signed copy of my book and an audio version of Be the Hero of Your Life, because all of this work is in the book. What's cool about the work that I do is that it came out and it's all in the book. And I've learned new things, and I'll add new things as I learn those, because I'm constantly learning new stuff. But for the most part, by reading the book, it's sort of the playbook of what we're going to do. And so in between or after we're done working together, the playbook is still there. We'll have some guided meditations. A good friend of mine, Elisa Wiggins, has created some beautiful meditations to music that will get us into this really good alpha state. So you'll get those as a download. You'll get access to me via the Facebook group, via email, and just questions you have. And of course, we'll meet weekly. And so that program there, this is the beta launch of this program. So I've worked with clients, I've written the book. Now this is the first time I want to offer this in a group coaching, scenario. So the beta price is $749 for this 8 weeks. And if you just go to 8weekhero.com, you'll find the page where you can sign up for that. Eventually, the next time I offer this, it'll be $2,222. I've already got that set, but for the beta price, it's $749. So I'd love to have you, to work with you further on this. And I just would embrace anyone that wants to work further and use the hero's journey as this concept. So any other questions anybody have? Morag, thank you so much for participating. Do you have any questions or
thank you
comments?
very much for the whole basically the whole week. It's been very, very interesting.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. No questions at this point. No questions
Okay.
at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.